where the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe. You are listening to Talk of the Night. And now, your host, Paranormal Phil. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the world, around the globe, or even in your own backyard. I am Paranormal Phil, and later on in the show tonight, we're going to be joined by my guest, Krystle Kaszuba, as we talk about her veteran organization, Community Learning Center. But first, up on the Talk of the Night website, before I do that, I want to mention I'm sorry about starting late. I did have a little technical problems, but we got it worked out, and I had to restart my computer. So let's get into the story of the day, and then we'll get into our guest tonight. So, for-profit trade school took veteran GI Bill and left him careerless. David Reyes Batista, a Marine Corps veteran, searched for a new career in his civilian life but was left careerless. While searching out different opportunities in his pursuit for a new career, David came across an automotive trade school, Wild Tech, that was owned by Corinthian Colleges, Inc. in Southern California. They, had these uniforms. They were working with people like NASCAR, Ford, Chevy, you name it, says Reyes Batista. The top names there, and they were looking for vets, and myself felt like I could be one of those vets. That's what drew me in. 10 years ago, he said that recruiters sold him on the hopes and dreams of working for some great companies with promises of job placement and tuition coverage with his GI Bill. Of course, that turned out to be a lie. He was told that his GI Bill covered only 70% of his tuition and had to come up with almost $4,000 in the next 24 hours, or he would be locked out of and kicked out of the school. He took on the debt and finished his course, but employers didn't accept his certification. Of course, you can read about the story and see the video up on the Talk of the Night website by clicking on the link right below the story, and it'll take you right to it. So let's get into a little bit about my guest here, and then we'll bring her on. So, the Community Learning Center was established in 2000 and has served as a 501c3 nonprofit technical school that uses outcome-based programs such as successful training programs, completion, employment readiness, and ultimately job placement as our goal to serve clients. We are certified by Texas Workforce Commission. Additionally, we are eligible training partners, UTP, with Workforce Solution, previously called One Stop Center's Unemployment Office. Now, as far as Krystle, she is a retired Navy senior chief who served 20 years of active service as an avionic technician originally and a Navy counselor for the last 13 years of her career. Upon retirement, she was hired as a Veterans Training and Employment Case Manager for CLC, that's Community Learning Center, Inc. Now she assists transitioning military personnel, veterans, and their spouses and their dependent children register for one of their 7 fully funded training opportunities and works with them to overcome barriers to employment up to the point of getting hired in the field that they have been trained for. Additionally, she can provide direct assistance with employment milestones for those that are interested in training, such as resume development, mock interview, and general counseling. So please welcome to the show my guest, Krystle Kaszuba.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
You're welcome. Yeah, I apologize for all that problem.
No, you're good. Things happen.
Yeah, it does. And when you don't have a sound engineer, when you're the only person doing the show.
That's it. One-man show.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
That's for sure.
Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do for CLC.
Sure. So, born and raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So, if I have any fans of The Office, that's kind of my hometown. But I ended up retiring in the Fort Worth area. And so, basically, was looking for work after the Navy. I'm a person who can't stay still. And there was an opening. I wasn't exactly sure what the job entailed because there was an acronym I was not familiar with. But it worked out in the end, and I just love what I do every day. So it's just very rewarding to be able to feel good about the work that you do. That's kind of the short version.
No worries. So what does let's see, where was my questions? Tell us a little bit about the organization and what they do.
Sure. So it was established in 2000, and what happened was some of the leadership in our company were previous Lockheed Martin employees, and they got together with some of the defense contractors in the local DFW area, and they went around a table. They sat down and they said, okay, if we want to have, employees trained and ready to work for, these types of jobs, what would they need to know how to do? So they developed the curriculum for what was our first course. We call it MAT for short, but it stands for Manufacturing Aerospace Assembly Training. And ever since then, we did grow. Now we have 7 courses. And, we really believe in self-sufficiency. So we focus on these trade fields for the most part because they're high growth, high demand fields. And so we do serve many people who are either underemployed or unemployed. And our whole goal is to get them into a career. Many times it's a career change for the clients so that they can sustain themselves and their families.
Yeah, and I know I think I tried to go through your organization back in 2018, I think it was. And of course, I didn't qualify for some reason. I think it was, I was needing assistance with, I think, Coin. And they said, for some reason, even though I was over there during Bosnia, and it was considered a war zone, they were saying that I was not in a war zone, even though my DD-214 said that I was in a war zone. So, I mean, it all worked out in the end, but...
Okay, well, that's kind of peculiar. So we've also had some staff changes throughout the years, and I'm glad that you mentioned Coin because I'm sure at some point we would probably talk about it, but that's our financial assistance grant that we have, where we can serve those in their time of need with essential expenses like rent or mortgage, car payment, car note, car insurance, car repair. So we have been able to help quite a few folks in that regard. And so your situation might be a little unique, and I might have to go back and see if we have records that far to see what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it all worked out for me. I'm doing this full time pretty much. So, and I'm 100% disabled, so it gives me time to do all this.
There you go.
So where is Community Learning Center located?
So our footprint is in Fort Worth. We do have 2 sites. I work at the facility in the White Settlement area of West Fort Worth. And at that location, we do have 3 courses. That's the course that started it all for us, which is MAT, the Aerospace Assembly Training, the 4-week bookkeeping course, and the 12-week heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration course. Now, our sister location is located in Forest Hill, Texas. So leaving Fort Worth, headed into the Arlington area off of Interstate 20. And over there, we house our 4 remaining programs, our welding course, our CNC machining course, our 2-week forklift logistics course, and also now our pre-apprenticeship program. So we've expanded recently. The pre-apprenticeship program is a great program for a construction background. and where folks can take it a couple different tracks. They can become an electrician, iron worker, plumber, pipe fitter, or carpenter.
Okay. Now, do you have any locations outside of the DFW area, or is it just in Fort Worth?
Just in Fort Worth. And it's funny because, we're a really tiny organization. We have less than roughly 30 employees. So we do a lot for the few people that we employ. But our presence is mainly within the Fort Worth DFW area. Now, as far as the veterans community is concerned, we do have grant funding so that veterans, their current spouse, or dependent children can attend any one of our 7 programs for free. And that extends to 6 counties. So I can fund anybody who lives in Dallas, Denton County, Tarrant County, Hood, Parker, or Johnson. All our programs are in person, so being able to make that daily commute is really important. If folks are in the outlying areas and they're interested in making the daily commute, we can certainly have a conversation. I would hate to send them away, but I realize gas is expensive and traffic is, a real pain. So
yeah,
if they can make the commute, we won't send them away. We'll find a way.
Yeah, especially with gas prices the way they are now.
Amen.
I know I grew up in Southern California, and the gas prices are over $8 a gallon in some places.
Oh, Lord.
Who besides you, is there like different people that work within your organization that help as I mentioned, COIN?
Yes.
Different people that work within the program.
Yeah, so we actually have 3 veterans within the veterans department. So I run or coordinate all the training and employment services. I have a colleague, Frank, who served in the Army, and he himself is a combat vet, and he runs our financial assistance program called COIN. And I have another colleague, Eric, who is an Army reservist, and he runs our Hearth program, which is our housing adjustment program for Real Texas Heroes, where he does home modifications.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just doing something real quick.
No problem. Now, obviously, I do have a few other staff members. They focus on the populations outside of the veteran, area. So, we do CLC. We work with those who have a criminal background. Many times they may have been recently released from incarceration. So we do have a caseworker that works with that population as well. Sometimes they may even be a veteran and have a criminal background. So they get kind of a bonus. They get 2 case managers.
Yeah. I think I know somebody that went through your program to do the aerospace thing. I don't know if he ever got anything done with it, but he did go through it.
Nice. Yeah, for us, I will tell you that job placement is huge. When you read that story, today's story of the day, it really infuriated me because that seemed like an outcome that's on the opposite end of the spectrum from where we want to be. For us, being a nonprofit technical school, our metric of success is job placement. So if we do not help our clients get a job in the field that we've trained them for, we have failed. And so their success is our success. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, and I think I looked into that school at one time. Glad I never went through it.
Right.
But only because I'm a NASCAR junkie. So.
Gotcha.
So who all does CLC help?
Ooh, so our target is anybody that is unemployed or underemployed. Okay, so we kind of have a quick reference. If folks make less than $37,000, that's kind of our easy, cutoff for unemployed or underemployed. Excuse me. But that's also open to interpretation. So, we look at everything on a case-by-case basis. Being a nonprofit, sometimes the current grants that we have determine our parameters. So sometimes there can be some changes, from maybe year to year or every 3 years based on the current grants we have. But since we were established and even throughout today, our goal is to serve those that are underemployed and unemployed. And then we kind of specialize in other populations as well. CLC's had a veterans department since, I believe, 2010. And we've also, like I said, served those with a criminal background. So, yeah.
So it helps more than just veterans.
Correct. Yes. We are open to the public at large. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just so that way people know about that.
Yeah.
Now, do you offer stipends for those that take the course for those veterans?
We do provide the grant funding for the cost of the tuition. We don't actually provide any kind of a stipend or an offset for students under our roof, like let's say to help them with their expenses. But there are resources out there. So if I have clients in need, let's say they have a barrier, like maybe it's transportation, or it might be help paying a bill, like their rent or something like that. Well, there are other organizations out there that provide what we call supportive services to enable people to succeed and continue the program. Sometimes those folks very well may be the workforce centers. And so we have a really good relationship with the workforce centers because we can provide referrals to them. And that way our clients get holistically served. Even though we're not providing it directly, the client is still getting what they need.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, I went through your program and it didn't qualify, but I was able to find other organizations, I think on my own,
Gotcha.
To help me with paying rent and trying to find better employment. I think it was after I had left the job that I was doing in 2018 because I don't know if it was before that or I think it was before that. Maybe it was after. I can't remember, but I had a problem with my disability with my legs shaking and I couldn't do the standing 8 hours a day. So it's like, I gotta find something to do, and
yes,
and while I'm trying to fight the VA for more disability.
Right. And sometimes they're community-based organizations. You know, I've not even been with CLC, to be completely honest with you. I'm still under a year working with them, but every day I'm constantly learning about new agencies. Sometimes they're veteran specific, sometimes they're not. And through those collaborations, that's how we cover down, so to speak, and make sure that all the needs are addressed. So there's a lot of referrals out of our agency to other community-based organizations, but then there's a lot of referrals back to CLC because we have those relationships with other organizations. And you mentioned stipend, which really made me think about something, and I'd be remorseful if I didn't take the opportunity to mention that CLC does also have a at-risk, it's a youth program for at-risk youth, and it's called Youth Build. So if you know anybody or any of the listeners know anybody that is between the ages of 16 and 24, if they've dropped out of school, we have a program that will allow them to get their GED as well as construction experience. We have a program where they build tiny homes that later get donated to an organization that provides them to low-income families in need. So it's a great opportunity for folks that may be going down the wrong path, and we kind of get them back on track. You know, it's never too late. Yeah. And that's kind of, there's no schedule for that. You know, some people complete that program in 2 months and they get their GED. Some take a little bit longer. So, yeah.
It gives them the opportunity to stay off the streets and
exactly. And out of trouble system. And exactly. Yes.
Now, is there an age limit to your program? And before I let you answer that question, I do want to mention this is all for Fort Worth, the DFW area, the surrounding counties, I believe. So so if you are listening in a different state, I'm sure there's probably something similar. Just check into that with your veteran resource service officer and everything like that, and I'm sure they can help you.
Yes. So the question was, age. Yes. Yeah. So we do require, because we're a state certified school, that folks be at least 18 years of age or older to take any of our training programs, and they have to be a high school graduate or have obtained their GED. So many times our youth build completers will have the opportunity to take any one of our training programs following their pursuit in our youth build program. So just kind of wanted to tie that together.
Okay, so there is, as far as the older age range, there's really no
maximum. And I'm going to brag for a really quick second, because we've had our HVAC program is somewhat new. We started it in the fall of 21. We have our third class on board right now, but our very first HVAC class, we had a Vietnam era veteran in that class, and the man was 73 years young, and he just wanted to have structure still. He wanted a new challenge. He was already an engineer. By no means did he really need any more education, but he wanted a new challenge. And I'll tell you, he was one of the mentors in that class, because that's the unique thing. Sometimes it may not happen, but for the most part, since I've been at the company, I've seen how these classes tend to bond because they are together for 4, 6, 8, or 12 weeks long. And there's just these like long-lasting relationships. So it's really nice to see that on graduation day, because they're all promising to like keep in contact with each other and whatnot. So
yeah, especially if you got training in something similar. I mean, it's helpful to the people that might not have anything. This is their first training,
right?
And they'll learn something new. Like me, I'm the kind of person that I did do air conditioning, refrigeration repair in the Navy. So, but I never got my certification to handle the refrigerant, which was R12 and R22A back then when I was in. I'm not a Vietnam era veteran, but
right.
First Persian Gulf War veteran.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that they have somebody that, especially veterans, that might have some kind of training that can help these younger kids along.
And just general life experience, like you said. Exactly.
Now, what kind of financial assistance do you offer for like those that cannot afford to take courses? Like you mentioned that story of the day thing. Like I know you guys are a nonprofit and you help them, but what kind of financial assistance is there for them?
So I don't want to forget to tell you this, so I'll lead with it. We are also GI Bill approved. Our longer courses, like the MAT, which is the Aerospace Assembly course, the HVAC program, the bookkeeping program, our welding program, CNC machining program, are all GI Bill approved. And I do get veterans sometimes that say, you know what, I understand that you can fund my training through grants, but it's more important for me right now, based on my financial situation, to use my post 9/11 GI Bill because I can get my monthly housing stipend while I'm enrolled in your program to cover the cost of my rent and whatever else they may need while they're not working. Because the thing about CLC is all our training is in person, and it's during the day, and it's Monday through Friday. We don't have night classes or weekend classes because it would require a much larger cadre of instructors to deliver training at multiple shifts. So for most people, the two things that keep them from training with us is, one, a lack of transportation, and then 2, that inability to be able to give their notice, perhaps, to their employer. So that's where the GI Bill definitely can help those that are eligible. And I'm a certified SCO, school certification official. So always learning something new with that program. So GI Bill funding is definitely an option. The grants, I do have 3 private foundations that have donated money to CLC specifically to train veterans and their family members. So that's another option. And then every once in a while, I'll get a veteran who does go to the workforce centers, and they get what's called an ITA, which is an individual tuition account, where they get a voucher, and the voucher pays for their training at our facility. So that's another option. And then every once in a while, just depending on who has certain programs, I can name drop here. I think they'd be okay with it. I have like Community Link, who serves many of our Fort Worth zip codes. They do a lot of great things in the Saginaw area and for Fort Worth residents, whether it be their food pantry, but they also can fund training for folks in their eligible listing of zip codes. So that's just kind of an example of a local community-based organization that can also help. So yeah, there's a lot of resources. The cost of the course should never be a concern. There's usually always a way. And then at the last resort, and this includes our civilian population as well, we do offer scholarships. So if we've exhausted all possible resources, CLC does have a scholarship application on our website where people can go on and submit an application. And that's our alternative.
Okay, well, we are at the commercial break here, but we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Krystle Kaszuba, as we continue talking about her organization, Community Learning Center. We'll be right back.
I'd look you straight in the eye and tell a bold-faced lie right now, just to keep you here. What do you hide in your bones? It seems to swallow all my fear. With your hair.
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's radioguestlist.com. Sign up today. It's free.
To advertise on Talking the Night, send an email to talkingthenight@outlook.com. Talking the Night has plans to fit your budget. Get your product or business heard around the world by the Talking the Night listening audience. Plans include 30-second spots and banner ads on the show's website and mentioned on the social media sites. So get your product or business heard around the world today. In honor of Memorial Day, Talking the Night will be offering 20% off store-wide on the Talking the Night merch store for the week of May 30th through June 5th only. So go to talkingthenight.com and click on the store tab and use the promo code HONOR22 at checkout and show your support for the show and the veteran that hosted.
Well, it ain't cheap being poor, and I can't take any more of the tickets and the taxes and the fees. I work hard for my pay, and they take it away like they don't care. I got a family to feed.
Talk of the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Krystle Kaszuba, as we talk about her organization, Community Learning Center here in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, before the break, we were talking about the different types of financial assistance, and for me, I waited way too long to use my GI Bill, and I don't qualify for the post 9/11 because I was in before then. Before then. Before 2000 I was in, so it's been a while. But I waited until 13 years after, and I learned that it was only until 12 years after that I could use it. But that's not my question. Now, I did go a couple of years back. I went to do some schooling because of my disability to learn a new trade through VR&E. Do you allow that type of assistance with your program?
We do. And I'm actually waiting for someone to present that or want to use that as a funding source, because that means I get to learn how to use it, how to charge it. But from what I understand, I've been told by the leadership that I have to just work with their assigned counselor to fund training that way. So it's an option. Unfortunately, I can't speak to that because I haven't processed that type of funding yet.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask just in case somebody does want to use it. Now, because in 2018, when I moved to Texas from California, I got tired of living in California. I always grew up living the Texas lifestyle anyways, even out in California, because my dad was a Texan, so
nice.
I grew up that country lifestyle, so and I'm still trying to get out to the country, but but when I moved here, I came with very little money. I tried to make it work. It wasn't working. I tried to find housing and a job, and after 5 days of living in a hotel, I was like, I got to go down to the VA. I got to ask them about the homeless program. Luckily, they told me that, and they got me into the Veterans Homeless Shelter.
Okay.
For 3 months. But does your organization help the veteran homeless, and how do you help them?
So it would be more with our COIN program. So my colleague Frank, who runs that program, works many times with HUD-VASH, which is something I'm not super familiar with, but I understand that there are, I'm trying to think of the name of the program right now, that Resource Recovery Council and SSVF, right? The SSVF program, where, it helps people get into a place. If I came across a homeless vet or at risk of homeless veteran, my first call would probably be to Volunteers of America, because in our area, we do have a VOA presence, and that is their specialty. The other thing that we do at Community Learning Center is we utilize what's called Texas Veterans Network. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I think I've checked with them before too. So
yeah.
I've been through the whole gamut of things.
Yeah. So I love Texas Veterans Network just because they are a collaborative, no wrong door organization who does information and referral. And not to bag on anybody, but like, for instance, a lot of people are more familiar with the equivalent, which is 211 or Texas 211. If somebody calls in and they need help, 211 helps connect them with resources, and they give them phone numbers to call. Well, Texas Veterans Network doesn't do that. What they do is they do a full-blown intake on the individual, and they connect them based on their zip code to a provider that they qualify to work with. And they have like 17 different service categories from employment to education, mental health, social, like if people just want to know about social resources, because that's a huge part of mental wellness, VA benefits, homelessness. There's so many providers in our state that help veterans, and some are truly better than others. Some say they help and some really do help. But the reason I love Texas Veterans Network, and I'm a community connector, meaning if I get somebody that comes across my path and I can't serve them directly, I'm not going to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Good luck. No, yeah. I'm gonna connect them with Texas Veterans Network through a computer system called Combined Arms, and I'm gonna get them checked in so that an intake team specialist reaches out to them in 24 to 48 hours based on how busy they are, and we get that person served. Yeah. So I love them.
But like 211. I mean, they give you all the numbers to call, but it's a pain in the butt trying to get a hold of all these, and you don't know where to turn sometimes, and it's horrible.
Yeah, and it's just hard for them to understand military competencies and eligibility and things like that. And that's why, even if I have the app on my phone for Texas Veterans Network, if I'm at the mall or I'm anywhere, I don't really go to the mall, but I could check a veteran in with TVN anywhere I go. So.
Yeah, who goes to the mall anymore? Now, you mentioned some organizations, but what are some of the other organizations that CLC works with?
Yes. So you just want to know what are some of the other agencies?
Like I know, like Endeavors I used for help with my rent at times. I didn't know if you worked with them and some others, Catholic Charities. If you don't have that ability to get them help, you can refer them to like these other organizations.
Yeah, we sure can. And that's why, it's interesting for me because I'm a curious person by nature, just me personally. And so whenever we get on a webinar or a little, virtual meeting and we're meeting new people, new organizations, I'm writing down phone numbers, email addresses, whatever people are willing to share, because then what I do is I connect with them one-on-one offline and I say, hey, would you be willing to meet with me for like a 30-minute Zoom meeting where you don't have to leave the office, I don't have to leave the office, but I can get a better understanding of what you do so that I know when I should call you when we need you. And when we need you is when my client needs you. So I always do that, but do I have to do that? No, because I always have Texas Veterans Network where I can get people connected with that right resource the first time.
I know. I think I came across them not until I think it was last year. I was looking for help on. I went to a resource fair at the Aviation Museum in Dallas.
Yes, they were there,
and they were there, and of course, I talked to Mike there, which referred me to Texas veteran service officer that helped me get to my 100% unemployability disability. So, but I came across them because I was like, I couldn't continue college because of my mental health. It was dragging me down, and it just got too hard. And I was like, I want to do radio, but I wasn't learning. I was learning more cinematography and movie stuff, which is great because I've just finished a screenplay last week, or I think it was last week. I finished my screenplay, which I'd been working on 6 years, but that was not what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn the radio side, and more so the marketing of everything. Everything else I knew. It's just the marketing part of it I suck at.
And that's the important thing. Like, as a veteran case manager, right, even at CLC, I take that same approach. I want to know when I'm talking to somebody, whether you're a current client or you're a prospective client, what are your goals and what is your background? Because if your goal doesn't align with one of our programs, I am not going to try to convince you that we should be what you are pursuing. You know, I want folks that they want to take these programs that we offer. They want to work in these industries because that's a win-win for both sides. So it never hurts to call us and have a conversation with us about your options. We're not going to pressure you into, you know, we're not trying to sell you anything. First of all, again, we're a nonprofit technical school. So that being said, you know, it's really important to have the client drive, you know, their path.
Yeah, you want them to be passionate about, because the way I see it is, if you do what you love doing, you never have to really work a day in your life.
That's it.
And like I said, radio has always been my passion. I've been doing it off and on for the past 10 years. So it's just something I have a passion. As far as speaking in front of people out on a stage or something like that, it's a little more frightening for me. But if I'm sitting behind a mic and I don't have to see the people I'm talking to, that's a good thing. Now, as far as like, as mentioned myself being disabled, if a veteran is disabled, is there a disability that will disqualify them for your service or for the training?
I would say that they have to know their own limits. We do individual interviews or intake, as we call it, you know, when people come to student orientation. So I'll explain student orientation and then I'll quickly get into that really quick. When anybody is considering a program at Community Learning Center, CLC Incorporated, you know, we have them come out to student orientation and they do a couple things. They listen to a presentation about the different programs that we offer to make sure that the one that they think they want is the actual best fit for them. We give them a tour of the facility. Then if they want to move forward, we collect the documents that we need to register them, which is typically 5 things: valid identification, social security card, birth certificate, and that proof of high school completion or GED equivalency. And if they're a veteran, a copy of their DD-214, member copy 4. So we collect those documents. We have them do an online application, which creates their student record, and then we administer a basic math and reading test. Those are the only prerequisites. Once those are complete, and it's a one-time requirement, then we can actually schedule them for that next open class that they're interested in. So to go back to your question, which was disabilities and limitations. When they finish that math and reading test, typically we do a one-on-one private interview. So when they're at my facility where I do bookkeeping, HVAC, and aerospace, I do bring them in my office and I have a little questionnaire that I do with them. Anybody that's in the Navy knows about what's called career development boards, and being a prior retired NCCS fleet counselor, not recruiter, you know, it's almost like I do CDBs without thinking. And so I'm asking them about their goals, short and long term. I'm asking them about, you know, what barriers or needs do you have? You know, we're talking about, you know, their living situation. I'm asking if they have, you know, trouble controlling anger, or trouble sleeping, or trouble concentrating. And you know, a lot of the veterans do, and it's okay to admit that and just deal with it, you know, and get help for it. But in that interview, I'm also asking, hey, can you physically do the job of an HVAC technician or a welder? Keep in mind, you know, when you're in the shop, you might be doing this kind of lifting, this kind of bending, so on and so forth. And if their answer is, yes, I can do all that, then great. But if the answer is no, that's where I have to have an honest conversation to shape expectations and say, this might not be the program for you. How about if we look at something else? Yeah. So we don't have any limitations for physical, you know, disability, anything like that. It's really client centric.
Okay, yeah, because I know, like me, I got injured. My back is injured from the Navy, and you being in the Navy yourself, you know how wide those stairwells are on the ships. Yeah. And when you're carrying around a 200-pound piece of air conditioning equipment who is the person that gets the bottom, the tallest person? Of course, I was the tallest person. And you only fit one on top, one on bottom. So I was the person on the bottom, so I had all that weight pretty much on me. And it just compressed my spine and just made it horrible. But I still got some strength to me, even though I got other problems. But I still try to stay in as best shape as I can.
That's good. Movement is good.
Now, as far as the physical disabilities and limitations, say like they have maybe a 50-pound limit that they can work with, and you mentioned about the HVAC training, which I know there's a lot of heavy equipment in that. Do you you said you talked to them and maybe find out what else they might want to work with that might be a little more suitable for their disability?
Yes. And sometimes, my boss may not love this, but sometimes it's even been a referral to a different organization, because they just weren't a great match for any of the programs that we offered. And maybe another organization like Goodwill or Empower, who I think you had on the program or were having on the program.
Let's see. Did I have? No, I had. Empower.
Empower, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I made referrals to those folks because, again, I just don't want to force somebody to take one of our programs if it's not genuinely the best fit or the best interest for them. So most of the time, I try to find something that we can offer them. But every once in a while, it may be with a different agency, and that's okay because at the end of the day, we want to do right by the client. We don't have a budget for marketing and advertising, and a lot of our existence has been based off of word of mouth. People have taken our courses, they like the experience, and then they've told their family or their friends or their neighbor, hey, you know what? I went to this place called Community Learning Center, and I took a course over there, and I liked it, and you should check them out, and so we get a ton of referrals that way.
Well, that's why I do this show and offer people like yourself to come on to talk about it.
Yes,
and
thank you.
It gets more word out there. And the only reason why, most of my shows are paranormal related, and people hear my name, Paranormal Phil, and think, oh, all the shows are paranormal related. No, I do have other shows, other topics. But I always tell people there's always some kind of paranormal aspect to every topic that I talk about. But I do the veterans thing because being a veteran, I want to help out as many veterans as I can in my own way.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned the GI Bill, the post 9/11 GI Bill, and scholarships. Are there what grants are there for veterans to use with your program?
So I have two that are a private foundation for Tarrant County residents, and I have one. The other one is all 6 counties that I called out earlier. It serves the Dallas, Denton, Tarrant, Hood, Parker, Johnson counties. On the client's end, they don't ever see anything other than when they come to student orientation, they fill out the application. There is a block on there for funding, and I tell them what to put in that block so that we can enroll them in those grants and have those grants charged to cover the cost of the training. Because yes, like let's say any of your listeners go to our website and they look at, clcinc.org. And they say, okay, I'm interested in this program. Oh, there's a cost tied to it. Some of them are $1,500. Some of them are $3,000. Some are $3,500. And HVAC is $6,000. That seems like a lot of money. But a lot of people, a lot of our clients don't ever pay that cost because of those grants or because of those partnerships with other community-based organizations or because of GI Bill or whatever. And I say all that just to say those costs that you see on the website are established only to cover the cost of materials or the cost of the licenses associated with the curriculum for that seat, that student that we have to charge because we had to buy the material, right? So other than that, that's the only time that we charge. It is rare, but we do sometimes get what we call self-payers, which means, somebody is in a great financial situation and they have the money and they cut us a check or a money order for the cost of the course. But that wasn't exactly what CLC was designed for, because our mission statement is to serve the underemployed and the unemployed and help them get into a wage-sustaining job. So for the most part, really the only self-payers that we get most of the time are for that aerospace assembly class, just because it's in such high demand.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the mission statement, because normally I type that question out, but I forgot to type it.
Oh, it's all good. Teamwork.
Yeah. Now, because you mentioned the grants and stuff like that. Like me, when I was in the homeless shelter, I knew I wanted to get into radio. Once I got out of there, that was the job that I really wanted. I wanted to do radio, and I wanted to learn all the system, the mixing board, and everything like that required a radio thing. And there was a program that I came across where you got to work in an actual working studio and learn everything. And that was over $12,000. Well, I went to ask VOA, and they couldn't cover it. Their max was $3,000. And I was getting nowhere. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to sit behind a mic. I want to talk to people and help people the best that I can in my field of expertise, since I already had been working in radio, learning all this stuff on my own.
Right. And
I still continue to learn to this day, like my mixing board. I don't know all the knobs on it, but I know what ones I do need to touch. And it's tough out there, and I'm thankful that there are organizations out there like yourself, your organization, that help veterans find what they are wanting to do.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Bill. Sometimes my veteran clients don't want to take training with us, and that's okay too. Some of them just want assistance with employment milestones. So I can tailor the intake.
That was my next question anyways.
Yeah, I can tailor the intake a little bit, meaning I can do that online application over the phone with them, or they can come into the center to do it like a traditional student would. I don't need as many documents because they wouldn't be training with us. I would just need valid ID, DD-214, and then I would say, okay, I'll use you as an example, hypothetically here, but you don't want to take any of the CLC training. You just want some help with your resume. Once we get those intake steps done, the two there, I'll say, email me a copy of your resume and I'll look it over. And then I'm going to recommend changes to it. And a lot of times it's a collaboration, right? So I don't know what you did, but I know how to write a resume. And I'll tell you, I had to get really good at it really fast, because military writing, as a leader, when you're writing up awards and evaluations and all that kind of stuff, is dramatically different than how you write a civilian resume. And I've gotten very, I think, good at it because I've gotten some good feedback from employers. So that tells me I'm, it's constantly getting better, but I'm on the right track. So I get a list. I say, okay, Phil, what jobs have you held in the past? You tell me what they are. I go and I get you a list of these activities for the different jobs. And I say, you tell me which ones you have experience with, or cross the ones out that you've never done before. And now I know how to beef up the bullets on your resume. So I have helped veterans with resume. We offer mock interviewing because you don't know what you don't know. For instance, I've had a young lady tell me, oh my goodness, I've been doing interviews wrong my entire life. And I smile or laugh because I like to laugh. And I say, well, good, at least now, you got the right formula for success. There are some pitfalls and things that you don't necessarily want to open up in an interview. So knowing what the path is and knowing what types of things you should share definitely help people be successful, or what you should do at a job fair. If you don't have a plan, how do you know that you're going to meet the objective of the job fair? Things like that. So those are the other services, employment services, that I could provide if they're not going to train with us.
Yeah, I know. With when I started, when I was in the homeless shelter, I had my resume, but I was doing it with a list of several jobs that I'd done, nothing other than mainly retail, Western wear retail, and amusement park, and of course my radio that I was learning how to do over the past 10 years. And I didn't really have that much training, and somebody helped me, said, no employer wants to see like 3, 4, 5 different pages of all the jobs that you did. Try bring it down to one page and make it stand out.
Yeah, you could do 1 or even 2, but 2 is the absolute max. I've seen really quick, the big things that I've seen: responsible for. Don't ever put responsible for in a resume. That means you were supposed to do it, but it doesn't mean you actually did it. Articles. You don't want to see I, the, a, you want verb, and then you want that action statement or that outcome, So yeah, there's definitely a recipe for success.
All right. Well, we are at the commercial break at the top of the hour, but we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Krystle Kaszuba, as we talk about her organization, Community Learning Center, and also we'll open up the phone lines if you do have questions for her after the commercial break. We'll be right back.
If you take off their jewels, they all look like fools. Weighing their diamonds and gold on the scales. Burning the woods to build a new skyscraper.
Designed specifically for paranormal investigators, Envoy presents entities with a simple and flexible way to communicate with us. Envoy offers the ability to deliver words, phrases, numbers, emotions, and yes and no answers through a uniquely simple, transparent, and documentable method. Click on the Go Stop banner ad on the Talking at Night website and pick up one this Memorial Day week. Go to spring.com and sign up to create your own design or choose from a design from one of the many creators on there. Spring has ways to integrate your store on social media, custom stores, and they have digital and physical products. While you're there, check out the Talk in the Night merch store. To get started with Spring today, click on the banner ad on the Talk in the Night website. Go to the show's website and click on the links for each of my guests and purchase a book or other product that they may be promoting. Without them, there would be no Talk in the Night. Whether you're interested in the paranormal, conspiracy, technology, health, relationships, or any other topic the show covers, my guests have something for you. Check it out today on talkingthenight.com.
I've seen the sun rise from mountaintops, slept on the wrong side of tabletops. I've climbed up trees that don't seem to stop, but it's home where my heart belongs. And it's the same as it's always been. Yeah, these roads keep us traveling. They're like rivers and
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil.
Okay, and we are back with my guest, Krystle Kaszuba, as we talk about her organization, Community Learning Center here in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, before we get back to her, I do want to mention, if you do want to call in and ask questions of her, use the Skype name Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280 or go over to Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account. It don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. Pop in the chat, say hi. I do interact with all my listeners, and I'm constantly watching it, so trust me, I know who's in there. I know who's saying hi. You don't have to ask a question there, but I do welcome questions there as well. So getting back to you, Krystle,
Yes,
let's
sir.
talk about, you mentioned about if they don't, before the break we were talking about if they didn't qualify for services and stuff, you help connect them with other services. But let's get into some of the other stuff that you do with the organization. Now, I got it up on your Facebook page right now, and I see that there is a virtual job fair coming up on July 13th at the American Legion. Where is that? Just to give you a chance to promote that event.
Sure. Yeah, that's a virtual event. So on the CLC Facebook page, which is at CLC Resources, feel free to check out our page, like us. What we try to do is just post various different events, helpful tips about, veteran information that can, help people. But that one there has a little QR code on the flyer, and I think it also lists the website as well, so you can get on anywhere in the state of Texas and participate in that job fair because it is a virtual event.
Okay. Now, what other events have you taken part of? What kind of events?
Oh, goodness. So if you're asking where might you find CLC, pretty much anywhere. We are always out in the community. If it's not me, it's one of my colleagues. So we'll be at, resource fairs, job fairs, fests of any kind, just trying to let people know that we're here and that we are here to serve the community. We were honored to be at the recent Dallas Jackals Military Appreciation Night. We set up a table out there. Wow. Yeah, we're all over the Metroplex. We'll pretty much go anywhere that we're invited. So If anybody wants to have CLC out, feel free to give me a call or an email.
Okay. Now let's get into some of the training that you do offer, because you did mention them. So mention those different types of training that you do offer.
Yeah, so I'll start with the three at my location. The first one I'll talk about is our bookkeeping course. It's a 4-week program, Monday through Friday, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 4:30. It's great for anyone who might have a physical limitation because you would work in an office setting as a bookkeeper. You might be an accounts payable or accounts receivable clerk, payroll clerk, audit clerk, account technician. There are many areas within the HR realm, billing, even working with some tax offices, things like that, as a bookkeeper. Or the other thing that we get is we get veterans or their spouses who are entrepreneurs. They may own their own business or want to start their own business. We can use their business information as placement for a job, just like anybody else, because they are self-employed. So many entrepreneurs gravitate to our bookkeeping course because they want to know how to process payroll, pay their employees, pay their taxes, and things like that. The students in that course get to take the QuickBooks certification exam. Assuming they pass, they leave not only with a certificate of completion, but also their Intuit desktop user certification, which technically never expires. Our HVAC program, which is new, it's a 12-week program, also Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4:45 in the afternoon for 12 weeks. It offers folks the opportunity to get what is their EPA Section 608 certification. So they'll take 4 tests for the core level 1, level 2, and level 3. If they pass all those, they'll get what's called universally certified, right, to handle different refrigerants. And they'll also earn their NATE certification. NATE is a national credential. It's their ready to work certification. It allows our graduates to earn several dollars more per hour than other HVAC technicians that don't have it. And I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to last, but we haven't discussed a deadline yet. So I think we've got at least a year, maybe more. But our HVAC students receive roughly $1,000 in free tools. Some of them are basic hand tools. Some of them are the gauges that they need to charge, the systems and things like that. So that's a huge help, for people that are changing careers and wanting to become an HVAC technician.
Yeah, especially since equipment is not cheap.
Exactly. Yep. And so the last one in the White Settlement area is the Aerospace Assembly course. That is a certificate of completion. And it is certifying you that you are a assembler, you are a manufacturer. The big thing with that is that course works on a lot of like carbon fiber, composite bonding work. They do work with vacuums as well, drilling, reaming, countersinking, so to install fasteners and things like that. That course is interesting because as technology changes, so does the curriculum. And our instructors don't necessarily teach 3D printing, but they expose the students to it, and they're often demonstrating 3D printing while they're going through class because that's the way of the future, especially for some of the different materials that are out there nowadays.
Yeah. Of course, the technology is always changing.
Always.
I mean, I'm pushing 50 next year, and some people are like, how the heck are you staying up with the technology? I said, if I don't stay up with it, I'm going to not be able to do a lot of things that I want to do. And eventually I will get to the point where I'll be like, no, I just want to kick back and relax and retire. But for now, I mean, especially with radio, there is a lot of technology involved, and it's constantly changing. You got to learn different systems, and I'm sure with the aerospace community, they're always coming up with new aircraft, new technology in the aircraft.
Sure.
The carbon fibers that they use on the aircraft and so forth.
Yep. Yeah. So then across town, I'll talk about briefly those other 4 programs. So our welding course, is same thing, Monday through Friday during the day. That one's 7 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. for 8 weeks long. The graduates of our welding program receive the certificate of completion from CLC as well as their D1.1 certification. So our welding instructor, is licensed by the state to administer practical exams that would be evaluated for that welding certification through the American Welding Society. So that's pretty neat. Not a lot of facilities do that. We have our CNC machining program, which, that is a lot of these courses, aerospace, machining, and also welding, you're going to have shop safety, precision measurements, So there's quite a bit of math involved. It's basic computations, but they're going to get a certificate of completion for CNC machining if they complete that program. For our 2-week forklift logistics course, they will also get a certificate of completion, but that one also comes with the OSHA 10 safety certification. So they get two things upon completion of that program. And then the electrical pre-apprenticeship, or just pre-apprenticeship as we call it, because we are now branching into plumber, pipe fitter, iron worker, and carpenter. Those folks will earn 6 certifications in 6 weeks. 3 of them are the construction certifications. They're the NCCER certifications. They do get a portion of our forklift training in the pre-apprenticeship program, so they'll also get their OSHA 10 safety certification. And then they also get CPR, because that would be really important for working in those fields.
Now, what are some of the requirements for these courses? Like, are there any special requirements to take these training courses?
Now that you word the question that way, I think really the only one, if I understand what you're asking, would be for electricians. Obviously they have to be able to detect color. So if they're color blind, being an electrician would not be a good fit for those individuals. But that's really the only requirement per se, or limitation or restriction that I can think of.
Okay, so they're really, other than, because, it's like having a colorblind electrician trying to defuse
That's
a bomb.
not going to work.
Like, red or blue, red or blue. I can't tell. They're all gray.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know if there was like a certain requirements, like I mentioned earlier about the limitation on lifting equipment or stuff like that. That you have to meet certain physical requirements for, like a HVAC technician or something like that.
No, but when I get some of the younger veterans or just younger people in general, if I don't think they understand what's involved in it, typically I'll take them to the instructor, right, who has years of experience in that industry. Or the other thing that I do, I'm a big user of the Career One Stop page, which is a .org. And there are videos on there that I can show them about the different jobs and what a normal day entails.
Yeah.
And that way, they're making an informed career decision.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, what is entailed in the courses, let's use aerospace, for example.
Okay.
What do the students learn in that course?
Ooh, okay, so the first week with all the courses, and HVAC is probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to start out with a book and academic work before they can become hands-on. And aerospace, CNC machining, and welding, they share some very similar content, which is they have to understand shop safety, and they will be tested on that. They will also be tested on the math involved in, calculating, because people have to be able to use the calipers and some sliding scales and, some other things like that. If they don't know anything about those things, that's okay. I don't want to intimidate any of the listeners that might be considering those things, because we'll teach you. But just know that the first week or so of your class is going to be very classroom centric. You're going to be going off of a book, going off of content and learning it before you can just go out and weld or go out and start, laying these carbon fiber coatings over, other materials.
Yeah. Okay, so basically you had to do book reading, basically.
Yes, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
You still got to do some of
And
it.
you don't have to worry about, like, you mentioned mathematics and that, and of
Right.
course, it's not, at least it's not quantum physics.
Exactly. There's no algebra, there's no geometry, there's no calculus or pre-calculus. It's basic computations, working with decimals, working with fractions, that kind of thing.
Okay, now, as far as the courses go, now you mentioned each one is different. Can you go through the courses and about how many weeks training they have to go through?
Yeah, so bookkeeping is 4 weeks long. HVAC is 12 weeks long. Aerospace assembly is 6 weeks long. Our welding and CNC machining, they're both 8 weeks long. Our forklift logistics course is 2 weeks long. And then the pre-apprenticeship program is 6 weeks in duration.
Okay, and I'm trying to think of where I was. I had it in my brain where I was going next.
No problem.
Drawing a blank. You mentioned.
We didn't talk about job placement. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So I
give
have
me
a
a chance to
colleague.
think about remember my question.
There you go. I have a colleague who is our job placement coordinator. And so she's on the phone all day, every day, talking to employers, some of them that we've had a relationship with for years. Some she's constantly finding new employers that will hire graduates in the industries that we train for. What she will do as they get towards the very end of the class, besides working with the resume part, because I help with resumes at one of our facilities and she helps with the resumes at the other facility. She'll share the list of open jobs in those fields. So, welders will get the welding jobs, the machinists will get the machinist jobs. And she'll say, listen, let me know when you go on and apply or if you apply for any of the jobs. Because then what she does is she picks up the phone and she calls the employer because she does have these relationships with them. And she lets them know, hey, Mary, Bob, whoever it is, so-and-so student just applied. He or she just graduated our, 8-week welding course. I'm just using that as an example. They had some great attendance. We never had problems with them showing up. They were engaged in class. They were academically, they really know their stuff. So, and obviously she's going to say that if it's applicable, we're not going to sugarcoat it. If that's not applicable, then we're not going to tell them that. But that really helps because in today's labor market, these bigger companies or even government-based places, a lot of these folks have that software where you have to get past a robot to be able to have your resume looked at by human eyes and to be called for an interview. So if that computer doesn't scan that resume and if it's not a high match, usually about 85% or greater, you don't even get considered. So having that network, having that professional relationship with these employers is a huge win for our graduates because we help them break down those barriers. I did not know this until I really started getting involved in resume writing. Those computers are programmed to only pick up the tense of the verbs on that resume. A lot of those job postings are in present tense. And so if you write your resume and those verbs on your bullets are in past tense, it's not going to pick up that word because the computer wasn't programmed for it. Yeah. So that's scary, Yeah. So that's kind of another big win or another great advantage of training with us is just those different layers of kind of small, digestible employment milestones, because you got to get through one gate to get to the next gate, So
and like I mentioned, technology is always advancing.
Yes.
I know, like me, I worry that we're going to get to the point where we're going to get to like iRobot or something like that. As much as I talk about different things. So, but I did remember where I was going with the question that I had forgotten. Now, you mentioned that your courses are during the day, no night courses. Now, I did ask this question of Connie on Tuesday when I talked to her about Empower.
Okay.
And what if a student can't make a course? Are they able to make it up?
Okay. So, as a state certified school, our hands are kind of tied at a certain point. There's only a certain number of hours that a person can miss and still graduate. Most of the time, we never really get to that level of an attendance concern. But we do work off of a 10-point attendance system. So the way we work it, we understand that sometimes you may have certain absences and they should be excused. Like if a person has to go to the doctor and they can provide us a doctor's note, or there's a death in the family, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, give me some proof that you went to the funeral or an obituary or something, so that we could validate it, because at the end of the day, we're audited too, right? Yeah. And so certain absences could be excused, especially if the client communicates. Communication in life in general just overcomes so many obstacles. And I will say that I see a lot, it kind of concerns me a little bit with the youth, because they're not as confident to communicate. But when you don't communicate with us, the staff, it really hurts you, because if we know you're going to be absent, we can arrange for you to make up the content you missed, and still have you participate in the class and graduate successfully. When people no call, no show, meaning they don't communicate, they're going to be absent, and then they just don't show up, we're going to assign them 2 points towards their attendance. And if they come in late, they'll get 1 point for that. If they leave early, we'll assign 1 point for that. Once a person gets to 10 points, we will most likely disenroll them from the program. So it's really important for people to ensure that they're ready to train with us, because I never want people to have to be forced to have to make a decision, right? I would rather us talk about it. Like, I've had a client who did not tell me they were working a job overnight and then came to school in the morning, and I'm thinking to myself, when I finally found out, I'm asking, well, what's going on here? I fell asleep. I only had a few minutes in the car to take a nap, before I came to class. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a recipe for success. You can't sustain that where you just, you don't have time to sleep, So, I think it's always good to just talk to us. We're people too, and we get it. Sometimes we can come up with a creative solution to help, depending on what the situation is. But communication overcomes so many issues. Yeah,
because I know, if that they have problems. When I went to college, when I was going through my college courses, they had like three unexcused absences, and then you were out of the class. So that's why I was asking that question, and how your system worked on people if they had to miss a class or anything like that.
Yeah. If they communicate with us, many times we can overcome it.
Okay. Well, we are at the last commercial break here of the night, but we will continue our talk with Krystle Kaszuba as we talk about her organization, Veteran Community Learning Center here in Fort Worth, Texas. We'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Stay strong. I'm gonna lose it.
Do you need music for your radio show, podcast, or YouTube channel but need a music license to play it on your show? Well, go to artlist.io and check out the plans they have. They have 3 plans to choose from: personal, unlimited, and enterprise. All the music that you hear on the show is from Artlist, and there is a banner ad on the show's website. Check it out today. Do you love the strange, unusual, and weird, unexplained mysteries? Do you like reading about the paranormal and other happenings? Well, I have the website for you, unexplainedmysteries.com. On there you will find so much, such as the latest news and articles, forums, news with video, and so much more. That's unexplained-mysteries.com, or you can click on the banner ad on the show's website to take you right there. Do you love history? Do you wonder what happened on this day in history? Well, check out history.com/this day in history and find out what happened on this day in recorded history. You can also click on the image on the Talk of the Night website under This Day in History and check out one of the many things that happened. The show's website lists a different event in history every day, so check it out today.
Gotta do it, working my way all around the clock. Cause someone's gotta do it. Day and night, bloodshot eyes. It's a love, it's a sacrifice. It's a lonely road to the top. I feel like I had some time, staying up in bed all night. So wrapped up in all the small things, and all the lessons learned. Till the bridges just get burned.
Call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil.
Okay, and we are back in the last segment of the show. Again, if you do want to call in and ask my guest a question, use the Skype name Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Or go over to Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account. It don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. Pop in the chat, say hi, let me know you are listening. If you go to Spreaker.com, click on Talk of the Night after you sign up. Scroll down a little bit after you click on the live show. There's a little chat bar there. You can type in your message there. I do interact with all my listeners. And if you got a question and you type it in there, I will ask my guest that question from there as well. So, in this last segment, I want to get into some other things that you have, but I do want to ask this before we do get into those. Is there any plans to offer any other different type of training in the future?
Yeah. So I think we're right now having a conversation about, can we offer some content virtually? And we haven't gotten there yet, but we think that it is viable to convert some of our academic initial training that we talked about in the last segment that usually starts the first week or so of the training into a virtual format, so that if some people cannot come in person for the whole class, they may be able to do a portion of it at home virtually, so that when they do come in person, it would almost be like a hybrid. So that's one of the conversations that we're having right now. As far as other training, if we see a field or an industry that is in high demand and it's consistent with kind of what we do, which is focusing on the trade fields, or even some other form of an administrative, maybe office profession, I could very well see CLC expanding to offer additional courses. It really depends on what grant funding would be available for us to grow new programs, because that is really, at the end of the day, what makes it possible for us.
Yeah, because the reason why I ask is because I know there's a lot of different technical skills out there, like using my radio show, for example. A lot of people are getting into doing podcasts. Internet radio is a big thing. Terrestrial radio is even going to internet radio to get more listeners, because that is dropped out. The streaming services have taken over like TV type thing and the theaters. So there's always new stuff out there, and I didn't know if there was like training to help people learn these new skills.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff is going digital, whether it be marketing even and everything else. So I can see something like that. We just haven't had any specific discussions about certain examples yet.
Okay. Now, you mentioned virtual, and that was another question I forgot to type up, and so I'm glad you brought it up. But are all of the courses in person? And because I know during the pandemic, my college courses were all virtual, and trying to learn camera work and different systems on your own through an instructor on Zoom or something like that was a little more difficult to do.
Yes. So it's interesting because, I got hired over the summer in 2021 with CLC. So it was already in the midst of, the pandemic and whatnot. They did shut down for a very short time, a very, very short time. And then they came right back and did in-person training all throughout. So we don't currently have a learning management system or software that provides simulation. We really do believe that some education is lost if you're doing it through a virtual capacity, at least for the industries that we train to. Could it be done? It can, with some very high-tech software for that simulation, but you do get less instructor-student interaction, less student-to-student interaction, and so we have stuck with that legacy, old-school, tried-and-true way, which is in-person training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like me, when I talked about going through VR and E, of course, I had to have a computer because my old computer, it just would not allow me to do all the software that I needed to do for learning all that stuff, the Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and all that good stuff. But so you do the courses do offer like the tools so that they can learn using those tools.
Yeah, and so even like I'll give an example. We talked in the last segment or the segment before about providing tools to our HVAC graduates to be able to transition into that field. We kind of do the same thing, similar with like our welding students, right? You can't just go out and weld unless you have your protective equipment. You need your sleeves for your arms to be protected. You need that helmet, that face shield to protect your eyes and everything else. So CLC does issue, once the student gets through the academic portion of like our welding course, they issue the sleeves and the face mask for like our welding students.
Yeah, and I know all about that mask being important because my ship was in dry dock, and I had to be on fire watch down while they had welders on the ship, and they didn't provide the face shield for us because we were a little bit away from where they were doing the welding, but the welders told us, look away.
Yes.
I thought I heard something. I looked over at the welder, and I was seeing green for a while.
Yep.
Now let's get into some of the other things. Now earlier you mentioned Youth Build. Do you want to? Did you mention everything about that, or was there stuff that you needed to expand on that?
I don't think so. I'll just kind of reiterate, though, or maybe we have some listeners now that we didn't have before. Sure. So just a reminder that CLC does have a program for at-risk youth. If you know anybody between the age of 16 and 24, they're at risk of dropping out of school or not graduating. Our program allows them to come to our facility. They get the academic support because we have an academic mentor on site that helps them and trains them and guides them to that path to get their GED. We talked earlier about putting them to work and having them learn a trade, learn a skill. So through that program, they also build those tiny homes that later get donated to low-income families in need, but they learn construction experience. It is also a program that allows them to do weekly community involvement projects. So they're trying to do this well-rounded development program for these young people. And that's basically what our Youth Build program is. Okay. And we're currently enrolling. So if you know anybody that's interested in that service or in need of that service, if you contact me, I can connect you with our right staff member.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about the tiny homes. Is that part of the, because on your website, there's a couple of different programs, and I didn't know if that referred to the Rebuild Tarrant County program.
Okay, so Rebuild Tarrant County was our grant that we had. It actually just ended, I think it's this month. It was for those with a criminal background. So we had funding to train anybody that was recently released from incarceration within Tarrant County within the past 3 years. Now
I remember what it was. I got so much information in my head, I forget things from time to time.
No worries. But just because that program isn't currently funded anymore, we'll still find a way to fund folks for their training purposes. I will tell you, my colleague Peter, he does an excellent program with those folks. He calls it Project Key, and they sit down and they talk about how should you disclose that you have a criminal background, if you have one, and how to do it without making yourself ineligible for the position, because that's something that you want to disclose. You don't want to wait to disclose it, because then they would wonder, well, were you going to tell us at any point, that kind of thing. But there's a professional way to do it. There's a way to talk about, yes, did this happen? Yes, it did. But since that time, they have done, all these other things, and they build what's called an employability report, which is kind of similar to a resume, but it's a professional document, like something that they can put in their portfolio to show, the work that they've been doing since they've been released.
Yeah, the person that I talked about that was in the aerospace program through you guys, he was in the same homeless shelter as me, but he did have a criminal background, history background, so... I know you were able to help him. Now, yes. What is the self-sufficiency SSF program? Yeah,
so that was another one of our grants that we had. It was to fund anyone who in the DFW area that had a dependent child under the age of 18 and that was making less than $37,000 annually. If they fit that category, whether it be their own biological child, stepchild, adopted child, or even, I guess it would be really one of those categories. I think I got them all. They would qualify for our self-sufficiency fund, which was a way to also pay for training.
Okay.
So a lot of those are examples of grants that we had under our own roof at CLC to illustrate different ways that we would pay for people's training and make it fully funded.
Okay, and the last one I was going to ask about was the Texas Talent Connection Program.
Yeah, so that's the name of the grant that we currently have for our HVAC program. So although you have what looks like a big price tag of $6,000, that's the cost of our HVAC training. Right now, our grant that's called Texas Talent Connection can fund anyone who is unemployed or underemployed in Tarrant County, Johnson County, or Parker County. So if you know anybody in those counties and they're interested in training in the HVAC industry, send them our way because we can help them.
Okay, yeah, and I've shared this all through some veteran groups here in North Texas and Veterans of Texas group. So that way, because maybe they're not listening live, but if you do listen tomorrow or something like that, because I know a lot of people are asleep at this hour.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. This is a little past my bedtime, too.
Hey, I'm the night owl here. I'm the one that stays up till 3 in the morning and gets woken up at like 6 or 7 in the morning by my cat, like, feed me.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Can I not sleep in? But
the cat don't care, though.
No, he doesn't. But yeah, it's... I've always been a night owl, especially doing paranormal investigations. I was in the field for 30 years before retiring. Wow. So, and I still help out every once in a while, but I'm stuck with that night personality. I enjoy the night.
Okay.
Now, let's see, because we're almost out of time here. There was another question that I had, and I am trying to find it here real quick.
No problem. Do you mind while you're doing that if I just give them our website?
Sure, because that was what I was going to ask on in the closing moments.
Oh, okay, yeah. A lot of times, the syllabus and photos, in general, current events, or the other thing that people can do is they can sign up for our newsletter. We really don't send it out too often, but we do periodically send an update through our newsletter to let you know about new programs that we have or new funding sources, or just to kind of brag periodically on what some of our graduates are doing. But if people go to www.clcinc.org, they can do a couple different things. They can fill out a contact us form. If they do that, when we get into the office, we'll see that, so-and-so is interested in this course. And the way that I do it, we pick up the phone, we call you, we let you know about the program details, answer any questions that you may have. And I like to send a recap email so that you're not so overwhelmed by a whole data dump of information.
Okay. I just found the question I was going to ask. Now, is there a deadline to sign up for these training courses?
So we do these classes all throughout the year. The limit, so to speak, is based on the duration. So if a class is 8 weeks long, once it completes itself in 8 weeks, there may or may not be like a 1 week break right before we start the very next class of that same type, but they occur all throughout the year. So as long as a person who is interested in training with us comes to student orientation before the start date of that next class, we can get them included in that very next open class.
And all that information is up on your website when the courses start?
I believe so. But if it's not, you can always give us a call and we can let you know when the very next class is and just confirm, orientation. So for those of you that are local in the DFW area, we do student orientation every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. at our Forest Hill location. So people can come to orientation there. for any of those courses at our Forest Hill location.
Now, say somebody doesn't have transportation, or like me, I don't have a car, so and I talked about this with Mike on Monday about going to like VFWs where I would have to take a bus to a certain spot and then walk about 40 minutes just to get to that VFW because there's no bus that goes right by there. Do you offer like transportation for those that might not have transportation to get to one of the two locations?
Gotcha. So our Forest Hill location is about 1 mile off of the bus line. So that one's an easier accessibility than the White Settlement location, and that's just me being honest. We don't have any means under our roof at CLC to necessarily provide transportation directly, but that's where, especially if they're in Tarrant County, the workforce people are very good. There's an actual portal that I can utilize as a provider to refer people that are in that situation where transportation is a barrier for service to the workforce folks. And depending on their income, their situation, assuming they qualify, the workforce has been able to provide certain people with Uber or Lyft passes, gas cards, or oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the other one now.
Worry.
But they assist with transportation if needed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check. Just in case somebody else was in my situation. Like when I went to your, it was the White Settlement location. I had somebody that had a car that took me there, so I was.
Oh, great! Yeah, that's awesome.
But of course, I never asked them about the transportation when I was there.
Well, you learn.
Yeah. Now, if somebody wants to donate to your organization and support it, how do they go about doing that?
They can fill out a contact us form on the website, or I get involved in a lot of different things. So I've had a couple people offer to donate, and what I do is I put them in contact with my supervisor, who also wears the hat of financial lead. So if you just want to let us know, any of our staff members, we could put you in contact with the right people. Okay. And then if we would be happy to provide thank you letter, or anything else that you would need or require for tax purposes, if anybody needs like a certain write-off to prove a charitable donation, things like that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the website and Facebook. Are you on any other social media sites?
We are. I just hope that you don't ask me to call them off. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram. Let's see. I want to say, we're on Twitter. We're on Twitter. I haven't been on the Twitter page, but we're on there.
Yeah, because the only one because I got several different ones, so I was trying to find out how to tag you in the other ones. I only was able to do Facebook, so okay. I was trying to do Twitter and Instagram, and it's like I cannot find the right thing, so I was like, find me on Facebook, and if they're listening from the other social media, I'm sure they'll learn something new.
Right.
Now, how can people get a hold of you and your organization if they do have a question?
Okay. So
that's the final question I have for the night.
Sounds good. My work cell phone number is 817-995-8984. Or you can call our main line, which is 817-569-9008. For the veteran community, you can hit option 4, but if you just listen to the prompts, it'll tell you what to dial. So it'll say if you're interested in this class, dial 1. If you're interested in this class, dial 3.
And about how long does it take to, and this is another question, that's, sometimes I think of questions just off of the top of my head, like Connie, or I think it wasn't Connie, it was last night's guest that was asking for questions so they could study up on the questions. This is why I don't do pre-scripted shows, because I think of things off the top of my head.
I love it.
And I don't like scripted shows because it feels to me that I'm reading a teleprompter.
It's not as real.
No emotion. And it just seems weird. But now I forgot the question. See, this is what happens. Oh, well. I'm sure they can find it on the website and everything. But I do want to thank you for coming on the show, sharing your information about your organization, and hopefully it'll help out a veteran or maybe somebody else in the community here in the DFW area.
Thank you.
So thank you again for coming on the show and sharing all that information. If you do want to find out about CLC Community Learning Center, at the top of the Talking the Night website, talkingthenight.com, there is a banner ad at the top that, let me get to it, get technical training today by clicking here. If you click on that, it will take you right to their website. And, of course, I will add their Facebook on the guest of the show under the radio show tab, probably around midnight or maybe tomorrow. And you can find all the information where you can get a hold of them and all that good stuff tomorrow. Now, as far as tomorrow, we end the week of shows for veterans, about veterans, for veterans, in honor of Memorial Day, which was Monday. So tomorrow we're doing a special open lines where I want to hear from the veteran community. I want to hear their stories and experiences from the military service. Now, if it's too much for you, I understand. I know there is PTSD and stuff like that, and people don't want to relive some of that. But if you do want to talk about some of the good times in the military, I do welcome that. Tomorrow I will be mentioning some of the stuff that I went through in the military and talking about my service in the service. As well as tomorrow we're going to have regular open lines where you can call in, share your stories, experiences, or ask a question about anything that the show covers, whether it be the paranormal, technology, science, health, wellness, dating, relationships, politics, conspiracies, or veteran issues. If you got questions about any of that, I'm sure I can help you, refer you to somebody. If not, if I don't know the answer, then I will find it for you and get back to you on that. But that is tomorrow night, Friday night open lines, a special veterans open lines for you all tomorrow. So be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central Time over on Spreaker.com or anywhere you hear the podcast. If you are listening to this recorded, please do not call in after the show because when the show is not live, because I will not answer. So thank you again, Krystle, and thank you everybody for tuning in to the show, whether you listen live or to the recorded show. And until tomorrow night for Friday night open lines, veterans open lines, I shall see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.
Darkness has fallen. Turn on the radio, and you hear him talking. Listening to what he has to say, all about paranormal
and all of the things. When he sounds off, you can hear